My son-in-law called me low-class trash right in front of all the wedding guests. Little did that spoiled rich boy know I'd just uncovered his lies, and worse, what he was hiding in the locked trunk stashed in his closet. When the secret came out at the reception, he fled in panic. My daughter threw her wedding ring to the ground, and as for me, well, let's just say no one will ever call me trash again. But before we go on, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and drop a comment below letting us know where you're watching from. We love hearing how far our stories reach. My name is Edward Harper. I'm 54 years old and own a small chain of coffee shops in New York City. I started from nothing, wiping tables at a downtown cafe. Today, I have 5 locations and a team of 30 employees. It's not an empire, but it's mine, built on honest work and sheer determination. I've been a widower for 8 years. My daughter Emily, 28, is a civil engineer and my only child. We've always been close, especially after her mother's death. When Emily called to say she was engaged, I was overjoyed. She deserved happiness. Finn was handsome, smart, and worked as an executive at a multinational firm, or so she said. We met at a dinner where she introduced us, and right away I sensed something off. He barely made eye contact. His responses were curt, almost dismissive. At the end of the night, when I said goodbye, he hardly moved to shake my hand, just a forced smile and a glance up and down that seemed to judge me as lacking. I tried not to dwell on it. Maybe he was nervous, maybe I was being too sensitive. But in the weeks that followed, during more gatherings, the behavior persisted. Emily didn't seem to notice, or pretended not to. "Your father always wears such simple clothes," I overheard him ask her once, thinking I was out of earshot. "My dad's always been practical," she replied, dodging the issue. It stung. I might not wear designer labels, but I've always prided myself on being neat and presentable. Still, I swallowed it for Emily's sake. It was at the engagement dinner, 3 months before the wedding, that things exploded. I hosted it at one of my nicer coffee shops. I closed the place, hired a special chef, decorated with flowers and lights. I wanted to show Finn that, though modest, I had good taste, that I could offer something lovely to celebrate my daughter's love. Finn arrived 2 hours late with his parents, a couple in expensive clothes and bored expressions. He eyed the decorations, the food, everything I'd prepared with such care, and let out an audible sigh. "Emily, darling, I thought we'd agreed on something more." "Sophisticated," he said. My daughter looked embarrassed. "I thought it'd be intimate and special here." "Intimate and special like a roadside diner," he muttered, loud enough for me to hear. I ignored it. I smiled. I served the dinner, which was delicious. I tried chatting with his parents. The father kept checking his watch. The mother downed glass after glass of wine, making comments about how charmingly rustic everything was. In her mouth, it didn't sound like a compliment. Then came the toasts. I raised my glass to Emily and Finn. "May your love grow every day." "Emily, your mother would be so proud of the woman you've become." "Finn, welcome to our family." That's when he glanced at his mother and let out a short, mocking laugh that chilled my blood. "Something funny?" I asked, keeping my composure. "No, nothing," he said, still smirking. "It's just that family sounds so formal for something so small, don't you think? I mean, it's just you, a widowed barista." The room fell silent. Emily paled. "Finn, what? I'm being honest. Your father's acting like royalty when he's really just..." He paused, looked at me, and finished. "Well, low-class trash trying to seem like something he's not." In that moment, something broke inside me. Not from the insult, I've heard worse, but from how my daughter bowed her head, ashamed. Not of Finn, but of me. "I think it's best we leave," Finn's mother said, standing. "It's getting late." They left and Emily went with them. I was left alone in my shop amid half-eaten plates and half-empty glasses. 2 hours later, Emily returned alone. "Dad, I'm sorry about Finn's behavior." He was nervous. He drank too much. "He called me trash, Emily." "He didn't mean it. You know how these rich people are. They have a different way." "And you're okay with that?" "With how he talks about your father." She didn't answer. She just said the wedding was in 3 months at a luxury resort paid for by his parents, and she hoped I'd get over it by then. That night, sitting alone at home, I realized I had 2 choices. accept the role of low-class trash, or uncover who this man really was, the one my daughter wanted to marry. Not for revenge, but for protection. Something about that family didn't smell right, and I knew the scent of deceit when I caught it. I called my old friend Dennis. We'd met in tough times when we were young and scraping by. While I went the coffee route, he became a private investigator specializing in marriage fraud cases. "Dennis, I need your help. Something's wrong with my daughter's fiancé." "Edward, are you sure? Maybe he's just a spoiled brat." "It's more than that. He's calculating. There's something in his eyes when he talks about money." Dennis hesitated but agreed. The wedding was 3 months away. We had time. What we'd uncover in that period would change everything and prove that between the two of us, the one who truly deserved the title of trash wasn't me. The next morning, Emily showed up at my house with dark circles under her eyes, looking like she hadn't slept. She sat at the kitchen table while I brewed coffee. I've always made the best coffee in town. It's no accident I built my business around it. "Dad, Finn wants to apologize to you." I poured the coffee without responding. He's really embarrassed. He said he's never acted like that before. It was wedding stress, the pressure. Finally, I sat down. "Emily, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. What do you really know about Finn?" She looked confused. "What do you mean? How long have you been together?" 6 months. And he's already planning a $500,000 wedding at the region's priciest resort. Have you ever been to his apartment, met his friends, visited his office? Dad, what kind of questions are these? Of course I know Finn. We're getting married. Have you been to his parents' house? She hesitated. They travel a lot, have homes in several countries. His apartment, he prefers coming to mine. Says his is always messy with work stuff. I sighed. It was so obvious, yet invisible to a woman in love. "Emily, I'll go to your wedding. I'll smile. I'll pretend I was never called trash. But promise me one thing. Don't sign anything before the wedding. No documents, no transfers, no joint accounts." She laughed. "Dad, don't be paranoid. Finn has more money than me. He doesn't need my engineer's salary. Just promise me, daughter." She promised, more to calm me than because she believed me. After she left, I called Dennis. "We can start today. I have a bad feeling." That afternoon, we met at a cafe different from mine. I didn't want to risk being seen by acquaintances. Dennis looked the same as ever. Short gray hair, reading glasses on a chain, practical clothes. No one would guess that behind the librarian facade was one of New York City's best investigators. So what do we know about the prince? Finn Sinclair, 27, supposedly a marketing executive at a multinational called Global Solutions. Graduated in business from Columbia University. Only child of Robert and Caroline Sinclair, who he says own a fine wine import business. Dennis jotted notes. Address? He claims an apartment in the Upper East Side, but Emily's never been there. They always meet at her place or fancy restaurants. Interesting. I'll start by verifying his education and job, then the parents. While Dennis dug in, I kept up my routine, running the shops, smiling at customers, balancing books. But my mind was elsewhere, replaying Finn's gaze, a mix of contempt and calculation. There was something predatory about him. 3 days later, Dennis called. "Edward, we need to talk in person." We met at his small downtown office. "You were right," he said, opening a folder. "There are major inconsistencies. First, Global Solutions exists, but no Finn Sinclair on the executive payroll. I called HR pretending to verify references. They've never heard of him." My heart sank. And Columbia? No graduation record for that name in the last 10 years. I emailed the alumni office with a story about a reunion. So he lied about everything. Not done yet. His parents' wine import business. No company registered under Robert or Caroline Sinclair in that field. There's a Robert Sinclair who owns a small convenience store on the east side, but I doubt it's his dad. A mix of anger and sadness washed over me. My daughter was about to marry a total liar. And the apartment? Dennis smiled. Here's where it gets good. The address is in a luxury building, but I checked with the doorman posing as a delivery person. No Finn there. So, where does he live? Good question. We need to find out. I suggest surveillance. We can tail him after a date with your daughter. It was extreme, but I nodded. My daughter was in danger, and I'd do anything to protect her. The next night, when Emily said she was meeting Finn for dinner, I tipped off Dennis. He parked near the restaurant and waited. I watched my daughter arrive with Finn, him stunning in a tailored suit, her proud beside him. It hurt to see her so happy, knowing it was built on lies. Dennis followed them as they left. Finn said goodbye to Emily after dinner, claiming an early meeting and needing rest. She offered to escort him, but he insisted on an Uber. Once she was gone, he called a car, not to the posh address he'd given her. It dropped him at a modest housing complex on the outskirts. Nothing fancy, no Upper East Side glamour. Dennis snapped discreet photos and noted the address. The next day, we went back. Dennis chatted with neighbors, posing as a consumer survey taker. We learned Finn had lived there alone for 4 years in a one-bedroom unit. But what does he do? Dennis asked a gossipy neighbor. The woman shrugged. No idea. He leaves dressed to the nines every day, comes back late. Some say he works high-end events. Others say he's a luxury escort, if you catch my drift. My stomach turned. What else was Finn hiding? I pushed Dennis to expand the probe. He used police contacts to access financial records. What we found was even more shocking. Massive debts, maxed-out credit cards, unpaid loans, even a fraud case from a jewelry store. There was a police report from 2 years back. A middle-aged woman accused him of theft and extortion. The charges were dropped, likely after a settlement. Edward, this man's a professional con artist, Dennis concluded. Your daughter's his next mark. I needed to confront Emily with this, but I knew she wouldn't believe me. She was love-blind. I needed ironclad proof. That's when Dennis suggested something drastic. We need to get into his apartment, see what's hidden there. That's breaking and entering. Technically, yes, but we can fake a reason, like a leak affecting the unit below. I have a friend who can pose as the building manager. It was risky, even illegal. But thinking of Emily handing her life to a scammer, of all she could lose, I decided some risks were worth it. A week later, we accessed Finn's apartment while he was out. The place was small but tidy, with some nice pieces mixed with cheap furniture, like someone maintaining appearances. In the closet, we found designer clothes, many still tagged. Some we suspected were fakes. There was an impressive collection of luxury watches. In the bathroom, expensive colognes and imported grooming products. He spends it all on looks, Dennis noted. Then we spotted something odd, a large locked trunk at the back of the closet, heavy with multiple padlocks. What's in there? I wondered. Something he wants hidden bad, Dennis replied. We couldn't open it without traces and time was short. But now we knew what to target. In the following weeks, as the wedding neared, we pressed on. What we'd discover in Finn's trunk would be the final nail in his perfect coffin and forever change my daughter's life. Time flew by, only 6 weeks left until the wedding, and I still lacked concrete proof for Emily. Yes, we'd exposed his lies about his address, job, and education, but to my daughter, that might just seem like an insecure man trying to impress. The mystery of the locked trunk consumed me. What could be so vital it needed all those locks? We need a way to open it, I told Dennis during our weekly meet. Without forcing it? He asked. Impossible. We'd need the key. An idea struck. What if we create a situation where he has to open it in front of us? Dennis raised his eyebrows. What exactly are you thinking? An emergency. Something forcing him to grab what's inside. We brainstormed a plan. We deduced he kept important documents in the trunk based on when he needed his passport for renewal and dashed home before a date with Emily. Our chance came when Emily casually mentioned Finn was planning a surprise party for her, supposedly funded by his parents. He wants your help with decorations, she said. I think it's his way of getting closer to you. I smiled, feigning excitement at the reconciliation attempt. Really, I saw my opportunity. On the agreed day, I went to Finn's apartment. He seemed nervous hosting me there in that simple place, contradicting all his tales to my daughter. Emily doesn't know I live here, he said quickly. I'm looking for a better spot before the wedding. Of course, I replied politely. Don't worry, I won't say a thing. He relaxed a bit. We started on the so-called surprise party, which I suspected was a pretext to probe Emily's finances. Edward, he began while sorting fake guest lists. Emily said you have 5 coffee shops. Yes, built over 20 years. And do you plan to retire soon? There it was. The inheritance inquiry, what Emily might get someday. Oh no, I said calmly. I love working. I'll probably stop only when I die, and even then I have partners. The shops wouldn't automatically go to Emily. I saw disappointment flicker across his face. We kept working, and then I launched my plan. I faked a phone call. Hello? Yes, this is he. What? Oh my God, when? Yes, he's with me now. I understand, I'll tell him. I hung up and looked at Finn with concern. That was the bank. There's been a fraud attempt on your account. Someone tried a large overseas transfer. The manager said they blocked it, but you need to go to the branch immediately with all your ID documents. His face went pale. Which branch? Citibank on 5th Avenue. The manager's Marcel. He's expecting you in 40 minutes. Finn panicked. My documents. I need the originals. They're locked away. Where? I asked innocently. He hesitated, then rushed to the closet. I followed discreetly and watched him kneel before the trunk. Nervously, he unlocked the padlocks one by one. As the lid lifted, I glimpsed inside. Documents. Yes, but more. ID cards with different names, but his photo, credit cards, cell phones, a small machine for making plastic cards, and most disturbing, photos of older, wealthy women with detailed notes on their habits, tastes, and assets. My daughter was just the latest on a long list. He grabbed an envelope of papers and slammed the trunk shut. In his haste, he forgot to relock one padlock. I'll come with you, I offered. No, he nearly shouted. I mean, no need. I'll head straight there. Thanks for the heads up. As soon as he left, I called Dennis, waiting nearby. He's gone. One padlock's open. Dennis arrived in minutes. We reopened the trunk. What we found was a pro-con artist's full arsenal. Besides what I'd seen, notebooks detailing past operations, women he'd seduced, how much he'd extracted from each, techniques that worked. There was even a timeline for Emily's scam with financial goals and dates. Most chilling was the final entry. Wedding, full access to assets, transfer to offshore account, disappearance. We snapped dozens of photos. We also found receipts for an account in the Cayman Islands where he funneled scam money. Edward, this is huge, Dennis said. He's not just a lone gold digger. Look at these names. They're known businesswomen. And these notes on the next targets. I think he works with others. I'm sure. This is a sophisticated operation. We closed the trunk, leaving that same padlock open. When Finn returned and noticed, he'd think it was his own oversight in the rush. That night I couldn't sleep. Images of the trunk, the cold notes on manipulating my daughter, the detailed plan to ruin her. It all swirled in my head. How to tell her, how to make her see without shattering her heart. I tried the next day. I called her to a cafe and showed some photos. What kind of joke is this? She asked, irritated. It's no joke, daughter. Finn's a professional scammer. He doesn't work where he says, didn't study where he says, doesn't live where he says, and he's planning to rob you. You hired someone to spy on him, broke into his home. Dad, have you lost it? Emily, look at these notes. It's all planned. How much he'll take when he'll vanish. She stood, furious. Enough. I know you never liked him, but this is sick. You're sabotaging my wedding out of jealousy. Jealousy? I'm protecting you. From what? From being happy? From building my own family? From finally having someone who pays attention without controlling my every move? Her words hit like a punch. So that's what she thought. That I controlled her. You're blind, daughter. He's manipulated you against me. He's shown me I need boundaries with you. Always hovering like I'm incapable. Always meddling in my choices. She tore up the photos. I don't want to hear more of this madness. The wedding's on. If you can't accept Finn, maybe don't come. And she stormed out. I was devastated. Not only had I failed to convince her, but now I risked losing her entirely. Finn had done a masterful job isolating her. I called Dennis in despair. She didn't believe me. Thinks I'm crazy, jealous. Predictable. Cons like Finn excel at family divisions. Isolating the victim is key. What now? We need something stronger than photos, something she can't ignore. Like what? A public confrontation at the wedding. They'd throw me out before I could speak. Not if we have undeniable proof and people she can't dismiss presenting it. That's when we hatched our final plan. It wouldn't just be me exposing Finn, it'd be his past victims. In the next 4 weeks, Dennis and I worked tirelessly. Using the trunk info, we tracked down 3 women he'd scammed. A doctor who'd lost nearly $1 million. A businesswoman forced to sell her company to cover debts he'd racked up in her name. And an elderly widow who'd lost her home. At first, they balked. Shame, fear of exposure. But learning he was about to claim another victim, they agreed to help. We also uncovered more about the organization behind Finn. He wasn't alone. At least 5 other men ran similar schemes, all tied to a woman named Augusta Myers, the apparent mastermind. The wedding loomed. Emily barely spoke to me. Finn had convinced her to block my number, avoid me. He was closing in, isolating her fully, but I was ready for the final showdown. On wedding day, I wouldn't be alone, and Finn would learn that underestimating a father protecting his daughter was his biggest mistake. The wedding day dawned with a perfect blue sky. The luxury resort in Miami Beach, supposedly paid for by Finn's non-existent rich parents, was impeccably decorated with white orchids and gold ribbons. Elegant guests mingled in the garden, champagne flutes in hand, commenting on the groom's exquisite taste. I arrived early in my best outfit, a discreet navy suit I'd bought for the occasion. I hadn't been invited to the groom's prep or yesterday's rehearsal. In fact, they seated me in the ceremony's back row, nearly hidden behind a pillar. Finn's doing, no doubt. My heart ached seeing the final touches, knowing what was coming, but recalling the trunk of evidence, the past victims, the detailed plan to ruin my daughter, my resolve hardened. Dennis arrived soon after, understated in gray, looking more like a distant uncle than a PI. We exchanged glances. Everything was set. In a private resort room waited our special guests, the doctor, the businesswoman, the widow, all duped by Finn, all with painful stories, all nervous, but committed. At 4 p.m., the ceremony began. Soft music, flowers, a smiling officiant. It all seemed like a fairy tale. Emily waited at the altar, beautiful in her gown, eager and joyful. My eyes welled, seeing her so vulnerable, unaware. Then came Finn, radiant in a tuxedo that cost, per my research, more than he could honestly afford in a year. He glided down the aisle alone. His parents had sent a last-minute telegram claiming they were snowed in Switzerland. Another convenient lie. The officiant spoke of love, commitment, honesty. The irony was unbearable. When it came to, if anyone objects, my heart pounded so hard I thought everyone heard. But we stayed silent. That wasn't the moment. Our plan differed. The vows were exchanged. Finn delivered promises of eternal love with such conviction that, without knowing the truth, I'd have believed him. Emily spoke from the heart, genuine, real, making it all the more painful. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant said. They kissed amid applause, smiles, thrown rice. The couple exited hand in hand toward the garden reception. Now, the real battle began. As guests headed out, I signaled Dennis. Time to position our special guests. Dr. Paula Mendez stood discreetly near the head table, Charlotte Vance by the bar, Ernestine Quinn near the entrance. I sat at my assigned table, the farthest from the head, of course. Finn had ensured I stayed out of the spotlight. The reception kicked off with music, drinks, lively chatter. Finn circulated like a king, accepting congratulations, introducing family friends I knew were hired extras for the illusion of social ties he lacked. Then the speeches. The maid of honor went first, then a childhood friend of Finn's, someone our research showed he'd met only 3 months prior. Finally, the newlyweds' turn. Emily thanked everyone, spoke of her love, how Finn changed her life. She glowed, truly happy, and it tore at me, knowing what followed would crush her. Finn took the mic, beaming. "I want to thank everyone for sharing this special day, especially my dear parents who, though not here physically, are with us in spirit." Lie 1. As many know, I come from a family that always valued hard work, honesty, and integrity. Lie 2. And I'm so thrilled to have found those qualities in Emily. That's when Dr. Paula Mendez stood. Tall, silver-haired, with the natural authority of years in medicine, she walked into view. "Excuse the interruption," she said firmly, "but I can't stay silent while another person's deceived." Shocked silence fell. Finn froze, mic in hand. "I'm Dr. Paula Mendez. 3 years ago, I met a man who called himself Fabian Rocha, claiming to be a pharmaceutical executive. We fell in love, or rather I did." Finn paled, his eyes wide in recognition. "After 6 months, he suggested joint investments. I transferred nearly $1 million to an account he managed. The next week, he vanished with my money." Murmurs rippled through the room. Emily glanced from the doctor to Finn, confusion etched on her face. "This man," Dr. Mendez continued, pointing at Finn, "isn't who he claims. His real name isn't Finn or Fabian. He does this professionally. Seduces women, robs them, disappears." "This is outrageous," Finn found his voice. "Emily, this woman's clearly disturbed. I've never seen her." But before Emily could respond, Charlotte Vance stood. "I knew him too," she said, approaching. "He went by Carlos Duarte, said he was a financial consultant, got access to my company's accounts, transferred $500,000 overseas, nearly bankrupted me." Color drained from Finn's face. His eyes scanned for exits. "This is a conspiracy," he said, voice trembling slightly. "Emily, your father's behind it. He's always hated me." That's when I stood. Heads turned. "It's true I investigated you, Finn, or whatever your real name is, because you called me low-class trash while plotting to rob my daughter. I walked to the head table. I hired an investigator. We found you don't work where you say, didn't study where you say, don't live where you say, don't have the parents you claim. Emily," Finn turned to my daughter, tears in his eyes, fake ones I knew. "You'll believe these lunatics or me, your husband?" But Emily was staring at Ernestine Quinn, now approaching slowly with her cane. "I knew him as Elias Martins," the old woman said, voice quivering with emotion. "After my husband's death, he appeared like an angel, cared for me, made me feel loved again, then convinced me to add him to my will. When I found out he'd mortgaged my house in my name, I lost everything. Now I live with my daughter." The room was dead silent, all eyes on Finn, who seemed to shrink by the second. Dennis approached with a folder of evidence. "I have documents, photos, financial records here. Finn Sinclair, or whatever, is part of an organized scam ring. They target vulnerable women, seduce them, isolate them from family and friends, then steal." Dennis pulled out trunk photos, fake IDs, cards, the detailed plan for Emily's con. "This is just the tip. We've alerted police. They're investigating the whole network." That's when Finn transformed. The loving groom mask fell, revealing something cold and calculating beneath. "You have no idea what you're doing," he hissed. "I'm not alone. There are powerful people." "We know about Augusta Myers," Dennis cut in, "and we've tipped off authorities about her too." The name hit him hard. He glanced around frantically, like a cornered animal. Emily, in shock, stared at the scattered documents, the multiple identities with her new husband's face. "Finn," she said, voice breaking, "tell me this isn't true, please." For a moment he seemed to consider clinging to the lie. Then, seeing he was surrounded, something shifted in his eyes. He straightened, chin up. Fear gave way to something hard, almost proud. "You know your problem, Emily. You're pathetic. So desperate for love you believed every word. So easy to manipulate. Each word stabbed my daughter's heart. I saw her face crumple in pain. You think I really fell for you? A boring engineer in a mediocre apartment, driving a 5-year-old car? Please." He turned to me, eyes blazing with hate. "And you, the proud coffee shop owner, thinking you're so clever. Know why I called you trash? Because that's what you are. All of you are. Ordinary people living ordinary lives, thinking it matters." The room was stunned by his shift. The sweet groom had become a cruel stranger before our eyes. "You may think you've won today," he continued, slipping off his wedding ring and tossing it on the table. "But it's not over. This is bigger than you imagine. That's when sirens approached. Dennis smiled faintly. He'd timed it perfectly. "Actually, Finn, it is over," he said calmly. "Police are here with an arrest warrant, not just for fraud, but extortion and identity theft too." Two officers entered with a plainclothes detective I recognized as Dennis's contact. "Eduardo Carmito Santos," Finn said suddenly, staring at me. "Your real name before the first coffee shop, before becoming the respectable businessman. Why not tell everyone where you really came from?" My blood ran cold. Somehow, he dug up my past. "What are you talking about?" Emily asked, confused. Finn smirked maliciously. "Ask your father about the 5 years before you were born. Ask how he really got the money for his first shop. I'd underestimated him. He'd done his own research." Officers neared. He stepped toward me. "The difference between us, Edward, is you hide behind a facade of respectability. At least I know what I am." They cuffed him, reading his rights. Before they led him away, he glanced at Emily one last time. "Maybe we should have met under different circumstances. You were even tolerable." As he was escorted out, guests remained in stunned silence. Years later, many would call it the most memorable wedding they'd attended. But in that moment, I could only think of my daughter, of what should have been her happiest day, and Finn's final words, looming like a threat. Because he was right about one thing. I had secrets too. And now, amid the chaos I'd helped create, I feared they'd come to light. The room cleared quickly. Some guests left in awkward silence. Others lingered in clusters, whispering excitedly about the drama. Resort staff seemed lost, unsure whether to serve more champagne or dismantle decorations. Emily sat alone at the head table, staring at the discarded ring. I approached cautiously. "Daughter." She looked up, and what I saw broke my heart. Pain, confusion, and something else, suspicion. "What did he mean about your past?" This wasn't how I'd wanted this conversation. Not here, not now, not after her trauma. But maybe there was no perfect time for hard truths. "Can we talk about this at home? This isn't the place." "No," she said firmly. "I just learned my 2-hour husband is a criminal, that our whole relationship was a lie. I can't handle more secrets, Dad. Just the truth, please." I glanced around. Remaining guests were far enough. Dennis had left with police for statements. We were relatively alone. I sat beside her, took a deep breath. "I wasn't always who you know. Before you, before the shops, I was in a very dark place." Her eyes stayed on mine. "I grew up poor in the countryside. My father drank. My mother worked 3 jobs. At 16, I ran to New York City, dreaming of a better life. I paused, feeling the weight of what came next. The city wasn't kind. No education, no connections, no money. I ended up on the streets. That's when I met Roderick. The name still chilled me, even after years. He offered shelter, food, protection. In return, well, I worked for him." "Doing what?" Emily asked, voice oddly calm. "Started as a waiter in bars he controlled. Then collecting gambling debts. Eventually, I became what they call bait. Bait. I'd find rich women at parties, bars, events, gain their trust, lead them into situations where Roderick and his crew could exploit it." "You robbed them," she said bluntly. "Yes," I admitted, shame burning my face, "but never violently. Mostly fake investment schemes. The women thought they were in legit deals. They lost money, but kept their pride. Many didn't even report it." Emily processed in silence. "How long?" "Nearly 5 years." "And how'd you get out?" I smiled sadly. "I met your mother." Grace was different from every person I'd known. She saw through my facade right away, but instead of judging, offered real help. Nothing in return. Tears formed in my eyes. I targeted her initially. She had a small construction firm doing well. Thought it'd be easy, but I couldn't go through with it. I confessed everything. Expected her to call the cops. Instead, she helped me escape that life. "And the money for the first shop?" Emily asked, recalling Finn's specific jab. "That came after your mother died." The insurance paid a modest but significant sum. I could have done anything with it, but chose to build something legitimate, something you could be proud of someday. I looked at my trembling hands. Emily, I know this changes how you see me, but I swear since meeting your mother, I've lived honestly. Every penny in the shops was earned through hard work. Every customer treated with respect. I've tried to make up for the harm by building something good. The silence stretched. Finally, Emily spoke. So you and him aren't that different. The words slapped me. The difference, I said, voice steadying, is I stopped. I chose to change. I took the hard path of building something real instead of shortcuts. And if he wanted to change too, if inside that man they just hauled off in cuffs was someone like you, waiting for a second chance? The question surprised me. So like my daughter, even heartbroken by betrayal, she saw redemption in others. Maybe there is, I replied gently, but he'd have to want it. Make tough choices like I did. No one can do it for him. Emily eyed the abandoned ring. I loved him, you know? Really loved him. It was fake for him, but real for me. I know, daughter. How do I move on? How do I trust again? I placed my hand on hers. One day at a time. Your mother taught me that. When rebuilding your life, don't look too far ahead. Just do right today, then tomorrow, then the next. She nodded slowly. Any other secrets I should know? I thought a moment. Roderick, the man I worked for, died in prison 12 years ago. But before that, he threatened to find me when he got out. That fear never fully left. It's why I've been so protective, maybe overly so. I worried my past would come back to haunt us. Emily stared for a long moment. Why never tell me before? To protect you. And honestly, shame. I wanted you to grow up seeing your father as the strong man who built a business from scratch, not someone who once conned people to survive. Just like I wanted you to see Finn as the wonderful man I thought he was, not the scammer you suspected. The irony hit us both. I think we both need more honesty going forward, I said softly. Yes, she agreed. No more secrets, no more well-meant lies. We stood together, leaving the banquet hall that should have celebrated a new beginning but witnessed the end of so many illusions. On the drive home, Emily asked one more thing. How'd you know? How'd you sense something wrong with him from the start? I considered carefully. When you've spent years deceiving people, you recognize the signs in others, the way he dodged topics, never let stories be verified, subtly isolated you. I knew those tactics because I used them. So your dark past ended up saving me. Maybe. Or maybe just a father's instinct. She smiled faintly. The first since everything crumbled. What now? Now we go home, brew strong coffee, cry if needed, and tomorrow we start over. 2 days later, Emily and I sat in my main shop's office when Dennis walked in. His expression mixed satisfaction and concern. Good and bad news, he said, sitting with us. Good. Police raided Augusta Meyer's hideout. She had docs on at least 12 similar schemes. Several men like Finn targeting different women. And the bad? Emily asked. Finn's vanished. How? Wasn't he in custody? Released on bail pending trial. Paid it, was supposed to get an ankle monitor, but disappeared before installation. We think he has fake docs and offshore access. A chill ran down my spine. He'll come back, I said. People like him always do, especially after public humiliation. Police are searching, Dennis assured, and we have protection orders for you both. After Dennis left, Emily grew thoughtful. You know, Dad, I've been thinking about all this. You, Finn, second chances. I understand better why you kept your past secret and why it's so hard for someone like him to change. How so? It's easier to stay who you've been than reinvent yourself. You had the courage for that tough choice. Finn, not yet. Not yet, I added. Who knows what the future holds? She smiled sadly. Always the optimist. Not optimist, realist. Change is possible, I'm proof. In the following weeks, Emily slowly rebuilt. She canceled the honeymoon, returned gifts, handled annulment paperwork. I kept the shops running but stayed vigilant. If Finn had uncovered my past, Who else might? A month after the disastrous wedding, I got a letter, no sender. Inside, one handwritten line. Maybe we're more alike than you think. F. I didn't show Emily. She was healing. Instead, I kept it as a reminder. The past never fully leaves. We can build new lives, new identities, but shadows linger. And sometimes, gazing out the shop window in the early morning, I imagine a familiar figure watching from afar. A man with many names and faces plotting his next move. Because one thing I learned in that life, a good con never accepts defeat. And Finn, or whatever his real name, was one of the best I'd seen. Our story wasn't over. It was just starting a new chapter. 6 months passed since the ruined wedding. Life settled into a new normal. Emily dove into work, taking a big engineering project that kept her busy round the clock. I expanded my chain, opening a 6th location in an upscale Chicago neighborhood. The scam ring probe continued. Augusta Myers was arrested with 3 associates, but Finn remained at large, a ghost over our lives. One Saturday morning, I was alone in the main shop, prepping before opening. Fresh roasted bean aroma filled the air as I checked stock. The doorbell chimed. Odd. I was sure the closed sign was up. Sorry, we're not... The words died. There he stood. Not the wedding Finn in tuxedo and jewels. This version wore simple jeans, white tee, hair tousled, no makeup, no sophisticated air. Hello, Edward, he said, voice different, less affected, more natural. Can we talk? My first instinct, grab the phone. I'm calling the police. Oh, please. He raised his hands. Just 5 minutes, then call whoever. Something in his stance, the lack of his familiar arrogance, made me pause. 5 minutes. He sat at a table. I kept distance, phone ready. First, my real name's Mariano Lacerda. The revelation caught me off guard, the first voluntary truth from him. Why are you here, Mariano? There's a warrant out for you. I know, I'm turning myself in, but first I wanted to talk to you. One ex-con to another. I shifted. How'd you know about my past? Augusta has files on major scams from the last 30 years. Your operation with Roderick was legendary in the right circles. When I started dating Emily, she gave me your file. It was incentive. See, even the reformed can fall. A shiver hit me. The idea my past was documented, studied by criminals. What do you want from me? He took a deep breath. I want to know how you did it. Did what? Get out. Rebuild. Become this. He gestured at the shop, at me. Someone respectable, someone real. The vulnerability in his voice seemed genuine, but I'd been fooled before. Why believe this isn't another game?